Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm your Litras, and in today's video I'll be going over how the use of different blending techniques helps you make light and shadow in your artwork look more convincing. Barely begun and already there's a charcoal smudge. But anyway, these techniques are especially useful for pencil artists, but really the same things apply for other blendable mediums of art like digital painting, etc. The blending items you'll be needing are tissue paper, a blending stump, a brush or brushes, and of course an eraser. I wish I could say you can omit some of these for the other, but it's not really true, and while they do function very similarly, we're actually using them for slightly different purposes. I define the sketch because I will lose the sketch once I start to shade in charcoal and then blend all that out. Doing this can feel quite unnecessary, so obviously the way around this would be to sketch in charcoal in the first place. I start by lightly shading the subject and the background as the base. I use a big brush for this because it covers more surface quicker and it blends evenly, and I also like the airy feel that it gives. Now we can start to shade the areas that are in deep shadow, keeping in mind of our light source. The light source for this drawing is from below. It's from the right, depends on how you're looking at it. First I start with light strokes and then I continue to build on that, gradually adding deeper shadows. For these smaller areas that are in shadow, I'm going in with a small brush. This is much preferred to a blending stump because we don't want to move the shadows around just yet. And then I'm going to go over that with a tissue paper to really smoothen that all out. This really gives us a clear view on where we are in the rendering process and how much more shadow to layer on top of what we've already put down. So this next part is really important because after I blend with the small brush again until I'm satisfied, then I go in with the eraser to lift some of that excess shadow on the cheek especially. I want there to be like a gradient from the deepest part of the cheek to the lightest part of the cheek. Then I go in with the tissue paper to smoothen that out. And for the lips as well, I'm using the tissue paper to blend the lips first. Really makes it look like it's part of the skin, and then I go in with the blending stump to blend the highlights into the shadows. A brush in this case would have been useful if I wanted to smudge or shift the shadows, while the blending stump is very useful when you're trying to blend mid-tones. So basically that border between darker shadows and the lighter shadows. Because of where the light source is coming from, the back of her neck is in shadow, but here I'm using an eraser to lift some of that shadow from the back of her neck. You'll see more later on, but this is because some light from the light source reaches the bottom of her hair, and her hair is sort of resting on her neck, so this causes the light from her hair to reflect on the back of her neck. This is what is commonly referred to as reflected light or bounce light. So this relationship between her neck, hair, and the light is a fine example of what a reflected light would look like and how it's done. This is my first time drawing and fully rendering an animal. But basically I just followed the same thing, and because I have no experience in drawing animals, I was really worried that this would not actually end up looking like the animal that it was supposed to look like. I thought maybe it might end up looking like a baby wolf, a dog even. Okay, so you can just watch and observe how I'm using the same techniques to draw this baby goat. And here I use the tissue paper to blend all that out so that I can have a base to work off from. So how I'm going about the eyes by using the razor to lift excess shadow. As I continue to shade more, I go in with the brush to smudge and shift the shadows. So it's much like a process to follow, sort of like back and forth, in order to reach your desired refined look. I don't utilize the tissue paper because for me it's important that the eyes in a portrait is able to retain attention from the viewer, and smoothing the eyes too much will be a disservice. However, if after using the brush and you still want to make it more blended, then I'd recommend going for the blending stump instead. I'm shading the forehead dark to light from top to bottom. The shading sort of feathers out into the area where the light source hits. There's going to be a lot of shadow on the upper part because not only is there not enough light reaching that section of our forehead, but also hair covering the forehead, forming a dark cast on the upper forehead. When there's a direct light source on the hair like there is on the front bangs of a hair, it's going to emphasize loose, stray hair strands. So it's going to make certain hair strands stand out. So this is a very important detail to keep in mind. And with that, I shall leave you with my last tip. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, do give it a like. And if you didn't, well, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.